Okay, so we're going to start by talking about something that's not sexy, it's not fun, it's not exciting. You're not going to talk about it at parties. So why are we going to talk about it?
Because it's important.
Yes? What else? What else? You guys have seen it on the slides already. Like, shouldn't be this surprising, right? We're going to talk about it because it's really important. Does anyone know what we're going to talk about next?
Well, judging by what I saw, finance is
Yes,
really
Chris,
important.
you're not allowed to talk. Somebody else. Somebody else. Somebody else, talk. What is really important that we're going to talk about? I'll give you a clue. It's useful when you're like this old. What are we going to talk about? Anyone?
Vacation time.
401k, yes, Sean, you roll. Just want me to say two more things. Okay? That's absolutely right. So you guys want to put in money in your 401k until you're 55. And some of you might be like, oh, I'll just start at 40, right? Not so good. You start at 40, you run 15 years, you end up with $500,000. Sounds great, but Seattle's a pretty expensive place. You're not going to make it on $500,000. By contrast, if you start at 25, you'll end up with 1.8 million. That's actually not bad. We're getting to a big number. Not quite enough though. You want to add another 10,000 a year. That's about 5 Amazon stock. If you're lucky, it'll be 3 Amazon stock in a couple of years. So add the other 10,000. If you do that, you remember that one thing. You're going to have 2.9 million at 55 years old. 4% rule, you're going to end up having 120,000 a year until you die. Your house is going to be paid for, your kids are going to be in college, you can probably live off that. It's not bad. If you are a little bit more ambitious and you add 3 years, either because you start at 22 or because you go to 58, you'll have 3.6 million. That's a difference of 700,000. So, like, go do that. Okay, so if you remember one thing from this talk, what is it going to be?
Compounding interest rocks.
Chris, stop talking. That's what you have to remember from this talk. Bing, what do you one thing you're going to remember at the end of this talk?
Join the 401k as soon as possible.
That's right, and then add more money too. Okay, so next slightly not sexy topic. How are you going to choose the company you join? Zach, how are you going to do it?
Culture and location.
Culture and location, that's good. What else? How are you going to pick?
Company standard.
Somebody else.
Product, like, I say, creative.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised nobody's being honest and saying money.
You won't let the people talk to know about it.
Yeah, you're not allowed to talk, so that's good. That's good. So a lot of people are going to talk about money. I'll talk about that last. So you guys are all wicked smart. That's why you're here. That's why you'll all probably get offers. If you can get a job at Amazon, you can probably get a job at Microsoft, or Google, or Snapchat, or Facebook, or the list goes on and on. And you talked about some reasons to pick these companies. I would actually recommend understanding the ethos of the company. Does anyone know what Amazon's like mission statement or like one-liner is?
Be peculiar.
Close. That's one of them. But the one I wanted to talk about was, I'm on backwards.
Is it the thing on the picture?
Yeah, it's the thing on the picture. There we go. It's a little bit of a hint. Somebody tell me what does that say?
I can't
Work
talk.
hard, have fun, make history.
Yeah, exactly. Work hard, have fun, make history. That is the Amazon sort of ethos. Does anyone know what Microsoft's is?
Is it be what's next?
It is. That's not very helpful. So I was actually at Microsoft for 15 years, and I think the ethos I would ascribe to Microsoft would be an honest pay for an honest day. So here, we kill ourselves, we change the world. At Microsoft, you come to work, you do your job, you feel good when you go home. And each of these companies will sort of have their own ethos and personalities. How are you guys going to learn what those are? How are you going to learn?
Experience.
Experience, you don't have any. How are you going to learn? Who's going to have experience at the other companies?
Other interns, other employees.
Exactly. So go find your friends at other companies. Ben, stop waving. You don't count. That's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to talk to your friends, their other internships, and they're going to tell you what it's like at the other companies. There's going to be a wide variance, but the difference in medians will really matter. Okay? So that's what you want to do. Some people were embarrassed to say they're going to choose their job based on money. You will, you think you should. There's a time to do that, this is not the time. And the reason this is not the time is because the pay difference between SDE1s is relatively small. Much bigger pay difference between an SDE1 and an SDE2. So what you should optimize for is go to the place you're going to be most successful and you're going to progress in your career the fastest. Because you're going to make a lot more money by becoming an SDE3 than negotiating to be a highly paid SDE1. Because they're not highly paid compared to SDE3s. All right, Chris, yes, sir.
One thing I would add from experience is when you talk to other people from other companies, don't just rely on one sample. Like I know a lot of people who worked at Facebook. Who worked at Amazon. I love Amazon. I think I did well here. They hated it, and they go to Google or they went to Facebook. And I personally have met people who are on the wide end of the spectrum. Some hate it for the culture, some love the culture. So don't rely when you talk to your friends. Look at their situation, look at what they do, look at their personalities, and by all means get more than one data point before you judge.
Yeah, that's great. Like go for the median. Yes,
And
ma'am.
since we're allowed to talk now, there's a lot by a lot of my friends in San Francisco is while you're young and you can still do the grind, as I call it, you should think about working for a startup if you can survive it, because the opportunity for growth there is much higher than at big companies. The promotion cycle at Amazon is pretty fast, but there's a lot of paperwork involved compared to like a smaller company where what can happen is you can go from a junior engineer to a team lead within 2-3 years if you've got the mental capacity to back it.
So I love the idea. You guys can add your opinions. You can't answer questions though. Startup versus big company is a great question. Here's my take on that. You are going to get into a startup and you're just going to do a ton, but you won't have a lot of people to learn from. You come to an Amazon or a Microsoft or a Google, you won't be able to do as much, but you're going to be standing on the shoulders of giants. You're going to get like PE reviews, and they're going to take you to the next level. At a startup, you're going to launch a product that's going to be incredible, but you're going to be the smartest person in the room, and you don't know enough to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, you never want to be the smartest person, because that means you're stagnating in your growth.
That's right. Okay, so for my friends who are going to be on visas, what do you guys think? Am I an American citizen?
Judging by your shirt, I know I'm not allowed to talk, I'm going to say no.
Chris, this is not the part of the presentation we're allowed to talk. You're allowed, you can only add comments. I'm going to remind you of the open door policy. Okay, so it turns out I am not. I am a permanent resident. I have had the misery of dealing with immigration. I think many of you will have such an unpleasant experience. And if you're on a visa, what this is essentially is you will be an indentured slave to the company you join. Okay? It's just the way it is. You can't change companies. And there's a couple of repercussions to that. The first is if you go to a small company, you don't like your boss, you don't like the group you're in, you're a little bit screwed because there's not a lot of places to go. By contrast, when you're in a big company, you hate your job, think Alexa shopping is retarded, you go to AWS, you can go to retail, you can go work at Amazon Go, same with all the other big companies. So if you're on a visa, be very, very cautious about the small companies. Similarly, you've got like lawyer problems. You've got to deal with visas. You need managers that understand how to apply for a visa. You want to have a company that's got like a lab in Vancouver so that when your visa's screwed up, you can go work from there. So if you're on a visa, you don't have a choice. Go work for a big company.
I'm a US citizen, so I don't know, but I have heard that when you're applying for like a green card and such things, even if you're within Amazon, you can't change your cost center. Is that true?
Yeah, but that's a pretty intricate detail that doesn't matter.
Okay.
Other things that you guys should consider depending on your citizenship and your country of birth. So personally, I'm born in Hong Kong, but then I'm a Canadian. This gives you a lot more flexibility. So you have to keep in mind where you're from. The TN visa, which is the NAFTA one, lets me basically leave the country, quit Amazon, come back to the States within, I think, 2 weeks. So it's true for some countries and it's not true for others. You need to keep that in mind.
So I'll hold you, I'm 10 years older than Ben. I'm also a Canadian citizen. You really don't want to screw with TN visas. You really want to be on an H-1B and not stick with that stuff. So go to a big company, get good access to lawyers, and your life will be a lot better. People on TNs renewing yearly. I know all the visas, it really sucks. Sorry, Ben. Okay, so not sexy, not fun, not exciting, not stuff we're going to talk about at parties. We're done that shit. Okay, so what I really want to talk about is how to be happy, because that's really the thing you want to learn at 22. Somebody read the first line. It's not old.
Know thyself.
Know thyself. Next line.
Play every day.
Next line.
Deep friendships.
Next.
Know what to do.
Last one.
Don't tell your boss I told you.
Right, that's kind of the most fun. But, okay, somebody tell me, what does know thyself mean? Okay, so for me, it means knowing that I like cooking breakfast for a lot of people. We'll get back to that in a second. It means knowing that I like dressing up in like bright things. Those are my shoes. It makes me really happy. It turns out when you know who you are, you can actually take it up a level. So my team got reorged, so I dressed up like that, came to work. It was awesome. The people that think I'm crazy still think I'm crazy. My friends and the people that like me still think, oh, that's who I am and I'm crazy. But yeah, so know yourself and do what matters to you. And people are going to tell you that like you're weird and screwed up and you're not a good person, and you can ignore them. Be yourself. What does play every day mean?
Work hard, have fun.
Yeah, it's the have fun part. But like literally, your life is just composed of a series of days. So try to do something you enjoy every single day. I've got kids, they rock. When you have fun every day, they have fun every day. I've got some hobbies. You can ask Tushar about the magic trick, I think. I think he turns purple. You could ask him about where his thoughts had wandered and why. You could ask him later.
Charlie, want to talk about that?
You can tell us a little bit later. I really enjoy juggling as well. I juggle fire sometimes. Yeah, and so just like every day, really enjoy it because that's all your life is, just a series of days. Deep friendships, what does that mean? Well, these are not that hard questions. Make friends, exactly. Question number one, do you recognize anyone in this picture?
You?
Yeah.
Antarai.
That's right, that's me. This guy right here, Ryan Gammon, he is a principal engineer at Microsoft. I recruited him there. This guy right here, you can actually find him in Phone Tool. He's a director of devices. He recruited me to Amazon. Anyone want to guess how many years ago this was?
10 years. 20.
Good job, Chris. That was 20 years ago. Okay, so 10 years ago, we all had kids. I had a little boy, Greg had a little boy, Ryan got a dog, but he didn't bring him. Just happens sometimes. And then as I was doing this talk, I was like, literally, it was actually 3 days ago, but I was trying to be clever. We all got together and just had a beer. It was great. Good friends. It's hard to talk about friendship, but if you look at me right now, you can kind of see that I'm like filled with joy, just thinking about all the fun stuff I've done with these guys. We've like shared our lives. It's awesome. Like, start making friends now, pick the good ones and keep them. And it's incredibly rewarding. Love what you do. This is super important. If you're doing what you love, you're going to be surprised you get paid to do it. Really, really valuable. What does that mean for me? I got to do some research early in my career. I did some ML sauce for anomaly detection, wrote a paper, no idea what it's about, but it's like, it's really fun. I'm really proud I did that. This is a super cool project I did. It's one of the reasons I came to Alexa Shopping.
Alexa, donate to Toys for Tots.
Okay, I can help you donate a gift to Toys for Tots and can send the gift directly to them.
Guys, thank you for joining me today. Let's give away some presents.
Hi, Dad.
Wait, you already know my name? You guys, I heard you like specific presents. Oh my goodness.
That's
Whoa.
what I was doing it.
Oh, you want this? T-Rex?
Well, the picture.
Here we go.
Attention shoppers, Dak Shepard is here with Amazon to deliver smiles this holiday season. We've challenged him to get as many groceries into his cart that will be delivered to the LA Food Bank today.
All right, let me stop that. So basically we did this really cool feature where we worked with Toys for Tots, we worked with Dak Shepard, we had a bunch of marketing campaigns. We made like hundreds of thousands of dollars for Toys for Tots. Super cool project. Very excited I did that. Any of the interns, do you guys know what the word mechanisms mean? No? How about the word process? What does process mean?
It's a series of steps you do.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to invent some new processes in my career. I call this a PM requirement plate. So we got the PMs to write the requirements on a plate. We then implemented against that. It was super fun.
Why a plane? Just,
Keeps it small and concise.
okay.
It was very fun. I guess this is not a joke that young people understand, but for old people, this is really cool. Okay, and another thing that's I really love doing is appreciating the team. One of the ways I do that is making cakes. So we deprecated some software. For young people, this doesn't make sense. For old people, like nothing feels better than like killing off old systems.
I'm on the wrong team.
You are. That was pretty awesome. Similarly, we launched an Android thing. That was pretty cool. Just a couple of days ago, I made this. I'm really proud of myself. See, Alexa shopping. Get it? Somebody on my team want to explain like these stone thing? What's that crap about? David, tell us.
Please no.
All right, David, you can pretend you're old. Too sharp. Tell us what that means.
Like stones?
Yeah, what's that?
They represent different teams and customer activity.
Yeah, exactly. So we basically have my team's red stone, blue stone, and green stone. And then I was very clever. See, y'all rock. Thank you. I was very proud of that. Okay, what else? Remember that part of it, I like making food for lots of people? So I was actually doing quarterly, I've been back here, maybe annually here, making quarterly breakfast for the whole team. So that was my director in my last group. We made on the order of 200 pieces of bacon, 100 eggs, and for my Indian friends, we also had dosas, which were really good. For my white friends, try dosas, they're awesome. And my other colored friends. Okay, another thing that's loving what you do. One of the ways I know I'm doing the right thing is when I'm appreciated by coworkers. This is kind of a gratuitous slide. I'm just going to read it because it makes me happy. So reading what people write about you just feels great. It kind of represents what I try to do in my career. Similarly, this is a PE now at Microsoft. I worked with him early in his career. And then I think nowadays people are too lazy to read a lot of stuff. So I got this now the other day, July 18th, I guess, and I'm super proud of it. That's kind of what I love to do. Okay, so stuff you shouldn't tell your boss, I told you. There's going to be a warning after that, but we'll start with the fun stuff. You're more than your work. What does that mean? Zach, what does that mean?
Your whole life should be centered around getting your stuff done for work.
And then one of the tools you can ask yourself when you're thinking about this question is like, am I going to care about this in 30 years? Really? Emma? What's a real deadline? Say again?
Death.
Death is a real deadline. That's a really good deadline. We'll talk about that in a bit. Ming, what's a real deadline?
Real deadline?
Is M3 a real deadline?
What's M3?
I don't know, some random ass deadline your boss gave you?
No, like what is actually M3?
It's usually you have milestones M1, M2, M3.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All right, that might be a Microsoftism. Sometimes I don't speak Amazonian that well. Okay, so yeah, you'll get these like arbitrary deadlines. Not really real. Similarly, you get like an SVP goal. Sounds really real. Everybody's very excited. It's not really real. A hurricane? A hurricane's a real deadline. A hurricane's coming, you've got to act. Similarly, heart attacks? Real deadlines. You have to act. And it doesn't sound like one, but it really is. And that's like your kid's kindergarten graduation. Doesn't sound like a real deadline, but it really is. So pay attention to the real deadlines. And another one your boss probably doesn't want you to know, extrinsic motivators control you. David, you have to answer, what's an extrinsic motivator?
I'm not actually sure what you mean by it.
All right, Campion, what's an extrinsic motivator?
Oh, you or your boss or someone that doesn't, it's not self-motivation.
Yeah, it actually means being, pull that back. It actually means being motivated by something external to you, like money or promotion. So if you're hunting out for money or for promotion, you're gonna suffer, because you've got to do what somebody else wants you to do. The opposite of that is intrinsic motivation. That's doing stuff that makes you happy. So like no boss of mine's ever wanted me to make a cake, but it makes me really happy, so I do it. And I don't get promoted as a result, but I really enjoy it, and I get great feedback, which makes me really happy. The other part we talked a little bit about this when we talked about picking a job for money. Money's an extrinsic motivator. So if you're thinking about taking a job or switching jobs, what I ask myself and I ask my mentees is, would you actually do it for a pay cut? Because if you're willing to take a job for a pay cut, that means you've got really good intrinsic motivation. You've got some other reason you want to do it that actually matters. So that's really important. And it sucks for your boss, because your boss can always give you more money or offer you a promotion, but they can't make you do the things you want to do. So focus on that. Okay, that said, there's a really, really big but. This is not an excuse to do a shitty job. Right? Some stuff's real, some stuff's not, but don't apply that to do a bad job. Apply it when you're up late at night and trying to decide if you're going to do this thing for your family. But if it's just day to day, do a fantastic job and care about that stuff. Okay. I'm like a nobody, but I'm okay with that because I'm intrinsically motivated. In case you want to hear from an authority, anyone know who that is? Anybody young know who that is? Do you know who that is? Have you ever used one of these? That's actually the guy who invented this, and this, actually this too, and that. So that's Steve Jobs. He's a pretty smart guy. Listen.
Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love. And that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart.
I love this talk. That was great.
Sometimes.
Okay, so we're at the half mark, and we can play a little bit of a choose your own adventure. Either we can go into an open Q&A, or we can just keep grinding through some good things to live by. Throw your hands up if you want to do open Q&A. Grind through. Grind through it is, all right. Okay, useful stuff for life. Be proactive. Somebody tell me what that means. All right, Vinay, you haven't talked yet. Go for it.
Don't be reactive, just do something before something happens.
Yeah, like, give me an example.
I mean, you know your service is going to go down because it's going to be a big marketing class that goes out at 6 a.m. Do something before that happens.
Yeah, totally. John, give me an example. Not about work. Really? Zach?
If you're running out of toilet paper, so you use Alexa to reorder it.
Bingo! That's a great way to be reactive. Begin with the end in mind. Somebody tell me what that means. Tushar?
Customer obsession.
No, stop telling me about Amazon LPs.
Like,
That is actually working backwards in Amazon LPs, but sorry, keep going.
know where you want to reach before it's done, so that you have a clear picture in mind.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody give me an example of this.
Like thinking big picture when you start with your goal.
Totally, totally. How about first things first? Okay, this one's kind of weird. We'll tell you more about this. You guys ever heard about like urgent and important? And like the little grid with urgent and important? Has anyone not seen that before?
Like an email.
Let me show you. Good. That's a good example. We'll just go into this for a second here. I just needed markers. I wanted to stop. Okay, so if you're a manager and or a management consultant, you like to draw these things. So you basically have got two grids. You've got urgency and importance. So this quadrant urgent and important. Somebody give me an example of that.
How about be urgent and not important?
We'll get there in a second. Is that urgent and not important? Did I just wrong? Yes, yes, urgent.
I think your 1 and 2 is reversed.
Very important over here. There we go. Good catch, David. Okay. What's urgent and important? Give me an example.
Your wife is in the hospital.
Your wife is in the hospital. It's a good one. Do you want things that are urgent and important? Do you want to be doing that?
Not all the time.
You don't. If you can, you want to avoid doing things that are urgent and important. It's very stressful and unpleasant. What about urgent? Wrong. Okay, that's one. Oh, cool. All right, now it makes more sense. Okay, how about? No, I had that wrong. Okay, now I have it. Sorry, I didn't prepare this part. That's why it's a mess. Okay, so how about let's switch the one
Urgent and urgent, but not important.
Based on the Euclidean plane, your 1 and 2 is in reverse.
Okay, so let's just ignore the graph because I've done a poor job. How about not urgent but important? What's an example of that? Having a trip, yeah, sure. Your health, that's a good one. You know what's a really simple example of not urgent but important? Brushing your teeth. What happens if you don't brush your teeth? Cavities and a root canal, which becomes important and urgent. You're really trying to avoid that. So take care of things that are important but not urgent. It's very easy to skip those. But if you do, you'll end up with urgent, important things, and that really freaking sucks. Okay, not important, not urgent. What's that?
Work society.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer. We don't have to go into not important, not urgent. Try not to do those. That's Facebook, watch TV, all that shit. Try to skip it. Okay, where did my slides go? Have I been clicking? Sorry. So first things first, start by doing the urgent and important because you can't avoid it. Then try to spend as much time as you can doing what's not urgent and important. And like a manifestation of this, for example, every week I come in and say, what are the 3 important things I've got to get done this week? And there's a constant flood of shit that doesn't matter that gets dropped on my plate that I work as hard as I can to avoid. So if you wonder why you don't get emails back from me, it's because they're actually often not important. I apologize to you. Okay, find win-win. What does this mean? Anybody? Chris, you're an old guy, you can answer.
Normally when you're in confrontation or arguing with somebody, debating with somebody, you always try to come up a winner, and there's always this mindset of somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. When you're negotiating or interacting with anybody or any entity, try to find a situation where both sides win and come out feeling good about themselves.
Yeah, that's good. What happens if you end up in like a win-lose situation? Zach, what happens when you get in a win-lose situation?
Someone feels bad.
Yeah, that's right. And then it ends up turning into a lose-lose situation. Because that guy that feels bad, at first you're like, oh yeah, I got this thing, I negotiated, I nailed it. But that's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And then you're going to end up in lose-lose. So If you can't find a win for both of you, like walk away.
And you know what else at the caveat, even if you are dealing with somebody and you see a win-lose situation, you're on the winning side, and the other person may not realize they're on the losing side, they could come out of that interaction feeling good about themselves, and then only realize later that they lost. Avoid that too. So if you see somebody's about to lose out, even if they don't realize it, help them out and make sure it's a win-win.
And actually, just going one more step into this, you might think, oh, I'll go into a lose-win, which is, I'll sacrifice something, I'll lose so they win. Guess what? You're going to be the opposite. You're going to become resentful, and then you're going to be pissed off, and you get back to lose-lose. So win-win or no deal. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Sanjay, what does that mean?
Try to understand others first, and then don't expect you to be understood first. Try to understand the other perspective before you actually expect others to understand your perspective.
Yeah, like what happens when you listen to someone?
You learn.
What's that?
You learn.
You learn. How do they treat you if you've listened to them?
They're more likely to listen to you.
Exactly. That's kind of the basis of this. This is a goofy one. Anyone know what the word synergize means?
Yeah. Synchronize or something.
No. Somebody else?
To work well together.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like this really goofy business word, but what it really means is there's shit you're good at, there's shit other people are good at. Work with someone that's good at the stuff you're bad at, and they should work with you for the stuff you're good at. So a really good friend of mine, he's not on this slide, he's like very detail oriented, and I am not, if you ask anyone on my team. So I've got to find people that are very detail oriented that can work for me, that can cover that gap. Similarly, I love to give talks. A lot of people don't. So you can dump me in a position where I need to give talks, and I partner really well with someone that doesn't do that. So it's synergizing. Sharpen the saw. Has anyone ever heard this story? Okay, so the story goes like this. There's this dude, and he's like trying to cut down a tree. And he's cutting, and he's cutting, and he's cutting. He's been like cutting for 2 hours. And this other dude comes to him, and he's like, it looks like your saw might be kind of dull. That might be why you're not able to get that tree cut down. And the guy cutting is like, I don't have time to sharpen my saw. I got to get this tree cut down. And so the joke is like, if you just stopped and sharpened the saw, you'd actually be able to get the tree cut down really fast. What's an example of sharpening the saw for us?
Automation.
Automation.
Sure. How about for you personally?
Asking a teammate for help instead of spending hours waiting through docs.
Yeah, totally. What do you think?
Like exercising.
Exercising, absolutely. Going to college, doing an internship. All these things are sharpening the saw. Instead of just doing, think about how can I do it better. Arguably this talk, but that might be too much credit for myself. Okay, I kind of blasted through that, which is fine. 2 highly recommended things. Does anyone know who Randy Pausch is? Chris?
He was, I believe he was a professor, I think at CMU. He was diagnosed with some sort of terminal cancer, and he had a fixed amount of time to live, and he basically gave a lecture on life in general. And during the last year of his life, he struggled doing that class with spending time with family, but he realized that's what was important to him, teaching. So he taught that class, and he wrote this book, and shortly after it went out, I think he actually passed away.
Yeah, so this is incredible. You can find it for free, while you're flying home, listen to this talk. It's fun.
You can actually find it online on YouTube, they have the actual talk.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's really, really good. The guy starts by doing push-ups. Really, really good talk. Highly recommend listening to that. It's kind of like the Steve Jobs talk, but the hour-and-a-half version of that. The other thing, the 7 habits of highly effective people. Does anyone know what these are?
The ones you just went over.
That's exactly right. Those are the 7 habits of highly effective people. This is like the genesis of all self-help books. I kind of like to say this is like my Bible. I read this every 3 years, and I find the same material is even more applicable to my life as it goes on. I couldn't recommend this highly enough. Okay, last thing, point your camera at that. That'll click you to my LinkedIn, and you can friend me on LinkedIn so I can keep track of it. that's like a demand. Go take your camera
Already
and
did.
point at that. I'm sure, are you guys all linked to me on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
If you're not, take a picture of that. It should just work. Did it work? Yes, it's working.
Yeah, it works.
Wow.
Nice. The small one is if you're too close, the big one's if you're farther in the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, it's pretty cool. I spent like multiple days getting that working. It was a little bit goofy, but I enjoyed it, so it was worthwhile. Okay. Questions?
Where were you 10 years ago?
Maybe this kind of goes against what you were talking about earlier about like doing what you love, but just as in general, like career advice, if you were talking to your kid and you were like talking to them about what the most interesting thing to go into right now is, independent of like, just with knowing that they love computer science, they love like technology, do you have any advice for like what young people entering the industry should go into?
You mean, so you've already decided that you want to do computers and then what you should start with?
Like whether, because I know AI is like a really hot thing right now, but I don't know how long it's going to be hot for. So yeah, just some insight into that.
I think what I would say is do the thing that's as hard as it can be for you and where you have smart people to learn from, right? Like the most important thing is to like build your muscles. Because you don't know what it is you're going to want to do in a couple of years. But what's the hardest thing you can do? For me, we didn't have the cloud back then, but we had like Windows. So I worked on device drivers for Windows. I did network drivers. I rewrote the whole network stack. I got like a network protocol. That was just really freaking hard. And the good thing about that is in the future, other stuff is just like technically a lot easier for me because I've built those muscles. I got to work with really smart people. So as long as you're working with smart people and working on something hard, as long as you're the dumbest guy in the room, or dumbest gal in the room, maybe not the dumbest, but close to the bottom, you're gonna learn a ton, and that's what my recommendation would be.
Build a mental, what is it called, mental elasticity. So try to, when you're working, like I know people who worked on device drivers, that's all they did for 15 years. They're really, really smart, but they get their mind set in that mindset. So take on tasks where not only are you doing really hard stuff, but don't focus too much for too long on one particular thing. Try to vary it up a little bit so that your mind can adjust itself, so you learn different techniques. And more than anything, connect with yours and learn from those around you. Not just the tools, when I say learning, not just the tools. The most important thing I learned was learn how to think. Like, it sounds kind of harsh, but you'll find that when you're around somebody who's smarter than you are, and when they attack problems, and you'll see, hey, this person solved this problem way faster than I did, or how did they come up with this solution? Look at how, I pull them aside and say, hey, how'd you come up with that? Look at how they reason about the problem, look at how they think about the problem. Don't just go to your teammates and learn like, oh, I know awk, teach me awk. Also learn how they think and how they reason about things. You'll find that more than learning individual tools will serve you well in the future.
And aside from that, it's not just the technical stuff. Like you'll see that because North America, a lot of your career is based on the people you know. So networking is very important, and like not on just a professional level. Like for example, like you might argue with someone professionally a lot about stuff, but you can still like have them as a connection. Like you might butt heads in the way you think, but you should still understand them as a person. Because you never know like when people will come in handy, for lack of a better word. So don't just judge people purely by their technical and their like knowledge base.
And also learn from people, not like to add on that. When you're learning from people, there's a technical side, but also like take Aaron for example. He's an SD3. And during Prime Day, I learned a lot from him, not from the technical side, but a lot from there, but also how he dealt with people. So when you're working with people, there's very many facets you can learn from. Learn from all of them, not just the technical. Learn how they deal with people. Learn how they think about problems. View a person as a multifaceted diamond, and try to glean as much as you can from them.
Yes, along those notes, I would say you come very quickly to a point in your career where being good at tech does not matter as much as being good with your soft skills.
Yeah.
And so you want to develop and grow your soft skills even more so than your technical.
Do not start first. Just go do something hard. Type till your fingers bleed. That's what you need. I mean, don't ignore these guys, but start by typing till your fingers bleed, then you can worry about being nice. Zach?
So, what are some red flags to look out for either in an offer or in the workplace?
So in an offer, I don't have any experience at smaller companies, so I can't really answer it. The offers of the big companies are all about the same. Flags to look at in the workplace. I might answer it slightly differently, and you don't really get the chance to do this in your first job, but you do in your second. See how people, like, do they hang out at lunch? If the team doesn't eat lunch together, bad sign, right? See if people, yeah, my team, fucking start eating lunch together. Yeah, no, I'm serious though, right? It's the way the team treats each other, that's gonna be the way they treat you. What else would I say? You're kind of lucky at a place like Amazon because we're very transparent about like our connection scores. Most of the companies have some kind of survey mechanism. Go ask the hiring manager if you can see his. If he's embarrassed, that's a good sign. What else would I say? Like, just see if you can go hang out with these folks. So, Sriram's not here, but he came in and had like lunch with us one day, and he saw what we were like, and it was like really cool to see that. So, I guess it's a long-winded way to say, just go see what they're like in general, and if you can see that, that's probably the strongest signal you'll get. Because everything else, oh, actually, one of the things Randy says that I love, I quote like every day, and the advice is like, what's the advice you give to your daughter before getting married? And it applies to like all these situations. It's basically, ignore everything someone says, and just look at what they do. And that's why you want to hang out with the team and see what it is they do.
A good bench, I've been told by my very first bosses, basically, when you're looking, because you're in tech, right? Like when you do the initial interview where you're on the whiteboard and stuff, see how they respond to you asking questions and stuff. If they're like very judgmental or they're already looking down on you, that's probably not the type of person you want to work with. You have to think about like, would you be okay switching positions with your, I guess, potential team? Would you be okay with them on the whiteboard and you're not going to try to kill them, right? And do you think that there's some murderous intent behind you while you're on the whiteboard? This is very important because like on the day-to-day, like even though we're not on whiteboards all the time, you talk to your teammates and your coworkers a lot. Like, so you have to be able to think about like, can I have a conversation about work and outside of work with these people without wanting to strangle them? The murderous stuff is.
Well, how well does the team do with criticism? Like if you're on a whiteboard, or they're on a whiteboard and you ask them a question, they respond negatively, then your day-to-day interactions where you're going to critique their work and give them feedback probably won't go well.
Totally. Next question.
Come on, there's a lot of young people in here.
Camp in, go for it.
No, I'm saying, you can ask anything, it doesn't necessarily have to.
RSUs? Yeah, you can ask questions about RSUs, you can ask questions about like what software managers do. You can ask like literally any question, like when should you have kids, anything you want. You might not know the answers.
I can answer time. So this is a question, not really for myself, but like a lot of people ask me it. Is at what point do you think would be reasonable to say like this field is not my field? I need out. Like what is the thought process that you would go through to be like, hey, I just need a career change completely?
Boy, that's a great question. The easier version of that question that I get, that I've experienced, because I just love computers, that's what I've always done, is when should I change my job? Right, because my boss sucks or whatever, I'm not excited coming to work. And I have a really good flowchart for that, which I'm going to find for this. No, it's really good. Hold on. Somebody do something entertaining for actually, we're out of time. I'll send it out. There's a really good flowchart that's like, ask yourself these 6 questions, and as you answer them, you'll know, should I stay or should I go?